Well, fast forward, Cornyn is an incumbent Republican in Texas who is in a dogfight of a Senate race with Air Force veteran MJ Hagar. And when asked by the Fort Worth Star-Telegram editorial board to basically defend the indefensible, that would be the president's horrible mismanagement of the coronavirus crisis, he tried to distance himself from Trump, describing the relationship as, quote, maybe like a lot of women who get married and think they're going to change their spouse, and that doesn't usually work out very well. There are a small handful of people on the planet who can tell you about the pressures Senator Cornyn and his Republican colleagues are feeling right now. Heidi Heitkamp is one of them. She's former Democratic senator from North Dakota, and she joins me now. It's great to have you on the program, Senator. And as someone who had to run a very tough race in sort of unforgiving terrain in a state that had moved quite to the right and was very supportive of Donald Trump in 2018, as you watch John Cornyn, who has viewed Trump as a political ally in the Republican state of Texas, try to wriggle away from him, what's your reaction to that, to hearing that quote?
My reaction is so many of these senators aren't ideologues. They are not partisans. They're opportunistic. And so it was not in his best interest in the past to be anti-Trump or to criticize the president at all. Now he wants everybody to believe that he's been a dissenter in private. You know what? Who cares? Because the time to actually stand up for Texas and stand up for this country and stand up for our democracy is to do it in public. And he's no Bob Corker, he's no Jeff Flake, and people will remember exactly what he was, which is opportunistic.
Yeah, and it seems to me also, I mean, I guess there's no right answer to that if you're a Republican senator who has yoked himself to Trump 2 weeks before the election. But it does seem to me that just from a political perspective, the rank opportunism there is a little unbecoming. But I mean, I'm not the median Texas swing voter, but as someone who had to kind of make these calculations about how you would deal with a median swing voter in your state, like, how do you think this reads to the voters of Texas?
Well, who knows? If they're very pro-Trump, they're going to say, well, he's got to do what he's got to do so that Trump can have a majority in the Senate. Right. If he thinks he needs to pick up moderates, then we'll just tolerate that. I think it's funny. I think the better example is Ben Sasse, who waited until after his primary to say anything. And so the complete lack of courage when you compare it to someone like Bob Corker or Jeff Flake, who are willing to risk their political careers to defend the democracy. And people are going to remember these folks as totally complicit, as people who did not stand up for their state or stand up for American values.
Yeah, there was another statement, Corker and Flake were both kind of on their way out. I think it meant they were kind of liberated a little bit. They were more outspoken. They were retiring. Lamar Alexander, who's another retiring member of the U.S. Senate today, tweeting that Dr. Fauci, in defense of Dr. Fauci, is one of the country's most distinguished public servants. He served 6 presidents, starting Ronald Reagan. If more Americans paid attention to his advice, we'd have fewer cases of COVID-19 and it would be safer to go back to school and back to work and out to eat. But this strikes me also as a political calculation by McConnell's caucus that some distance with the president for their branding perspective is probably needed right now.
Well, sure. I mean, when you look at it, but there's people who are in the trap. It's kind of like where Dean Heller from Nevada was in the trap 2 years ago. He couldn't win being against Trump and he couldn't win being for Trump. Gardner's in the same spot. And I think Joni Ernst is in a tough spot the same way. And so, I get criticized all the time by many progressives in the party for basically telling people when I thought President Obama was doing the wrong thing. And you may say, well, that was okay for you politically, but it also is good for your soul to actually say what you think and do it in real time and take the political liability that comes with it. And that's what's going to heal this country, is people being more honest. And, Annie Applebaum wrote a great piece in The Atlantic. And in the end, she interviewed people who fought the Nazis and fought the communists. And basically her line in there that everybody should understand, they risked everything. They risked their family. They risked their livelihood. The only thing these people risk in defense of our democracy is their reelection. And that's cowardness at the highest level.
Yeah, one of the people right now who's in a political fight is Kelly Loeffler in Georgia. And it's been remarkable. I mean, she's almost become a parody of herself because she's got this weird runoff situation. She's got a challenge from Doug Collins. This was a debate with 8 candidates today. And she was asked, can you name something that President Trump has said or done that you disagree with? And she says, no, because I am proud to be the only U.S. senator with a 100% voting record with President Trump. I don't know if that, I mean, I understand why she's doing that in the short term, but that might have real long-term consequences.
Well, and I think the caucus understands that, and they're incredibly angry at Collins for challenging the appointed nominee, or Kelly, because that meant she had to run so far to the right to win her nomination. There's also another backstory there, Chris, and that is that McConnell wants so desperately to advance women because he knows that the GOP has a huge problem with women.
Right.
He basically told the governor of Arizona to appoint McSally. That's not going so well. It's not going so well, the appointment in Georgia.
No, it's a great point. And in some ways, between McSally and Loeffler and Ernst being in trouble in Iowa and Susan Collins, there is a relationship between the ways in which the gender politics of the Trump-era Republican Party and women candidates are in some tension that we may see a big wipeout, actually, this fall, depending on how things go. Senator Heidi Heitkamp, it's a great pleasure to have you on tonight.
Thank you, Chris.